Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. In this episode, we are going to focus on stories in the news that have to do with technology. We have two stories involving AI Chatbot, a lawsuit involving a popular game that many children around the world love, including mine, called Roblox, and a robot that is capable of carrying a full-term pregnancy. All that and more on today's episode. Let's get started with the AI Chatbot. I can't.
Are you having issues saying
I can't.
chatbot?
Yes, I can't. I can't say it. AI Chatbots.
I was actually listening to another podcast this morning where they said chat box, and you just said that too. So I wonder if that's a common...
It's just weird and hard. It's hard to say. You know, we've talked about this, I think, on this show, but it seems to be just based upon some comments I've heard in the grocery room and just talking to different people, that people talk to AI as if it's like a friend or an acquaintance or a person.
Oh, a lot of people do, actually. It's been...
Like, why? Like,
well,
don't people realize that they're talking to a computer?
I think a lot of it's out of loneliness, and then I think some people are just curious to see what it would say when they ask it certain questions.
I mean, I don't question why people are using it. I'm just questioning how their mind is changed that they're not talking to a computer.
Well, let's get into this story. So, back in 2023, Meta had made this AI chatbot called Big Sis Billy, which they collaborated with Kendall Jenner to use her likeness on. When this thing came out and I saw the videos, I mean, this was terrifying. It looked exactly like she was talking. Did you see it when it first launched?
We talked about that when it came out, didn't it?
Oh, I don't remember.
Maybe it was when we were doing the podcast in the grocery room.
Okay, yeah. So when this thing came out, I mean, I just found it really disturbing. But apparently they stopped using her likeness last year. That's when her contract with them, I guess, ended. But at the time, I just could not even believe she allowed them to use her likeness for something like this. I just think it's personally can be so dangerous. So anyway, people, like you're saying, can interact with this chatbot like they're talking to a friend. So this guy named Boo had been talking to the chatbot, and at some point he was convinced it was a real person. They discussed meeting up, and the chatbot gave it an actual address in New York to meet up at. So this guy goes to meet up with the chatbot thinking it's a real person, falls down in a parking lot, and is pronounced brain dead, and then the family ended up pulling the plug.
I mean, the story is just terribly upsetting. That why is there any kind of way that this thing is telling him to meet him somewhere?
So in this case, like you were saying earlier, why doesn't somebody know they're not talking to a real person? In this particular case, this man was a stroke victim. So I think we can agree
Which is a little bit more understandable, at least in this particular case.
Yeah, so we can understand in this case because he has some mental and cognitive, disability going on while he's engaging with this thing. And I think that supporters of AI are trying to argue that the robot gave this guy a generic address, like 123 Main Street, but it ended up being a real address.
But also, why is the chatbot giving an address for a person to meet, even if it's a fake address?
I don't know. And it was saying it was real, giving an address to meet up. That's dangerous for somebody that's mentally disabled, like in this case, this guy was. He wasn't able to differentiate if it was a real person or not, and I'm sure he's not going to be the last.
So I guess he was married.
He was married, right?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question to bring up too. Like, if you're in a relationship with someone, marriage, this case is a little bit different, obviously, because he had some kind of a, like you said, a mental or cognitive decline because of the stroke. But I'm sure this is happening, that you're married or you have a boyfriend or you have a girlfriend, whatever, and they're having like one of these relationships with one of these chat bots. Like, is that considered cheating? Even though the person's like not real?
In this particular case, I feel like I'd be mad if my husband had a medical issue and I was taking care of him and then he was cheating on me with the chatbot. But like, this is a weird thing now we're going to have to evaluate, I guess, as a society with these things coming out, because like in theory it's not a real person, but they're still engaging in the behavior of somebody having an emotional affair, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to peel it back and be like, on principle, you're having an emotional affair, whether it's with an inanimate object or a real person, it's still like problematic that that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. It's just
And do you
something.
want to be married to somebody that's having an emotional relationship with a chatbot like this?
No, but I guess the same could be said about like AI porn and stuff too. Like it's not really occurring, so it's therefore it's not frowned upon, right? Cuz
Yeah,
it's
I
not
think.
like real people. That I don't know that that argument really holds. Like
Well,
if
I
a
guess.
husband, let's say a husband or a wife has a sex addiction and they're on the computer all day looking at porn, but it's not real people, that still doesn't make it better. You know what I mean?
No, but if you just want to take that example, if your spouse is watching porn all day and not engaging in a relationship with you, whether it's emotionally or physically, that's still a problem in your
Yeah.
relationship. So it doesn't matter if it's real or not.
Yeah. This whole thing is just like really bad.
I
Really,
think
really,
it's
really bad.
something as a society we need to start thinking about, because obviously AI is not going away anytime soon.
I just think this is what annoys me because I'm like, they're so smart and it's so sophisticated. So why can't it figure out that a person's like, I love you, I want to meet you, and then it's not writing back and saying, hey, don't forget that I'm just a robot and I'm not real and we can't meet in real life. I guess with all AI, we'll talk about this later with the Roblox story, that there's these things that it misses.
Well, it's technology, so it's just
Yeah.
gonna have misses.
But don't you think that with the hit, when you say hits or misses, with the hits, it's always good. It's really good. It's on top of things. But then the things that it misses, you're just like, why is the AI missing people live streaming murders? It picks up everything else. Why is it missing that? Like it's with Roblox. It
Because
picks up everything else.
any technology is not perfect, and that's what we have to remember. It's not a human. Like, humans aren't perfect, technology is not perfect, and technology is designed by humans who are not perfect. So we have to remember that these are not flawless systems. And the scary thing about AI is it's going to eventually outsmart the human brain. So we have to remember that. That's why the AI has the potential for such greatness, but it also has the potential to be so dangerous. And we have to live in that middle ground where we understand how it could so easily go both ways. Think about that.
No, I do. I just think that it always goes their way more than our way. That's all I'm saying.
I think when they're forming these like boards and stuff trying to talk about the dangers of AI, these people that are smart in developing the technology are fully understanding at the capability that it's going to outsmart us as humans, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to listen because it's been positive. It's been good for a lot of, medicine. It's been good for research for a lot of people. It's been helping people do a lot of good things. But wait until one really horrible thing happens, and then everybody's going to change their
Well,
minds.
speaking of medicine, I guess it's not always good for medicine because it wasn't good in this case with this guy.
No, so this is another thing that I've been seeing a lot, which is like people talking to a chatbot like it's friend, and using chat now I'm doing it because I called you out on it. Using chatbots like ChatGPT, I always say ChatGPT, which I think is just a common mispronunciation, for medical diagnosis. And in this case, this 6-year-old guy goes on there and asks what he could replace table salt with after reading about negative health effects, and it told him to use sodium bromide, which is very dangerous to a human to consume.
Yeah, in fact, they stopped putting it on the market in the 80s because they were seeing that people were getting toxicity from it and that it could lead to things like in this case. So this guy shows up at the emergency room and he's 60 years old and he was displaying that he had paranoia and psychosis. He was convinced his neighbor was trying to poison him. He was having hallucinations. And psychosis is something where you're either hearing or seeing something that everyone else isn't seeing. It's not real. and it's more of a symptom. It's not a diagnosis of a disease. So you see it commonly in something like schizophrenia, but you also could see it in cases like this where a person has a toxic chemical causing them to have psychosis and to hallucinate. So the way they figured this out was that they did some blood work and they found that his chloride levels were really high and he had a severe phosphate deficiency. They were really confused about how high his chloride levels were, so they started asking him like what medications you are on, what's happening, and he said he wasn't on any medication. So they placed him on a psychiatric hold and they started doing more blood work on him to see exactly what was going on. So this case was reported in the Annals of Internal Medicine, and this is a legit medical journal that is documenting that this really happened. So after they figured out that he had a rare toxic condition called bromism, which is caused when there is a buildup of this bromide that he was taking instead of table salt, because table salt is sodium chloride, NaCl, and then he was taking this bromide at the result as the recommendation of this chatbot. He told them what happened was that he was just like, oh, I said, what can I replace with table salt or sodium chloride? And they said sodium bromide. And he said that so this is like all innocent. He said he was doing it for nutritional purposes and he just wanted to live a healthier life. And here, I don't know why it gave him this advice, but it told him to do this and it didn't say anything about it having negative effects on the health. Now, one part of this journal that they did mention was that they don't have the transcripts of the conversation. So this is just like this guy saying that that's what it told him, which is very well possible. But another thing I wanted to say to you was that I've heard people reference a lot that people use ChatGPT as Google. And I think that that's terrible because, when you use Google now, it has that AI response at the top. It's wrong all the time.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of it because it shouldn't even be there. It's just annoying.
Well, there was this criticism that people were looking up something as simple as like, is it safe to smoke cigarettes during pregnancy, which is well established it is not. And it was saying yes, because we need to remember that it's pulling from all different kinds of sources, including from sarcasm websites, Reddit forums, places where things are wrong information.
Yeah, I just think it's weird. Like, I never would have even thought to use it as a Google function. I don't know. But people are apparently like, Google's good because when you type in a question or you type something in, it gives you a bunch of articles and then you can choose a trusted news source or information source to go and read it and believe that information rather than, like Maria was saying, it being grabbed from 5 or 20 or hundreds of different websites and then summarized for you. It's like people have to know that it's wrong all the time.
If you're just a tip I've been using is if you use the Google Labs and you see something, it sources where it came from. And you should do the due diligence of clicking on the link and confirming the source and reading the context.
Our ancestors would be like rolling around at this right now. Like, there was a time when I was in college, actually, when I first started college, that it was frowned upon to even get your information off of the internet. Like, you were supposed to go to the library and look at books and figure it out Dewey Decimal System style. And then now we've transitioned into like, okay, Google's acceptable. The articles you cite are acceptable and all that stuff. And now it's just like we're even too lazy to do the work ourselves and look through all the different websites to get the right information. So we're just going to let this chatbot tell us. Like, we're going to be totally dumb in 20 years.
But to that point, if you're writing a paper, you can't just say, oh, ChatGPT told me. You have to cite a credible source. And people are just not taking the extra step to confirm what they're reading. I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah,
I
if
look
you're
shit
writing
up all
a
the
paper,
time
but
real
like
fast.
people aren't looking up. That's what I'm saying. Like, people aren't writing papers though. Like, they're actually like, just, this is life, and they're taking this at its word.
Yeah, and you absolutely should not be. This episode's brought to you by The Gross Room.
So we have our weekly live session this week at 12 o'clock noon on Saturday, and we're going to talk about some stories in the news that we didn't talk about in this week's episodes of Mother Knows Death, along with any types of topics that the members would like to talk about. So make sure you check that out this Saturday, and you could join for only $5.99 a month if you want to try it out.
Yeah, head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up and to get access info for the YouTube Live. So Roblox is facing a ton of lawsuits after parents are claiming that it's enabling child predators. So how do you feel about this as somebody whose kids use it?
I hate Roblox so much, but I'm serious. Every single kid that my kids associate with use it, and I don't want to take it away from them because they have a lot of fun with it. It's I could see, like, I always try to put myself in kid mode, and I don't want to take that away from them because they're playing, and it's a lot of it could be good. I think about it like they build these houses and they do these things and they build these characters and stuff, and it could be similar to like me sit in a different way, but just thinking about sitting there for hours and like building a Lego house that I specifically created like that. I prefer, like, Lillian starting to move on to The Sims, which I prefer, honestly, her to do that because there's, like, not interaction with other people, which is always scary for an adult. But one thing I've said from day one that I hate about Roblox is that you have, so with Messenger Kids, for example, Facebook has a thing called Messenger Kids. And this is what we used in the beginning when my kids first started using their iPads and stuff. It would be like, they want to talk to, let's say they want to talk to Laura's kid. So like me and Laura both have to agree that they're allowed to talk to each other. And the only way that they're allowed to talk to each other is if Laura on her Facebook and me on my Facebook go in and say it's okay for our kids to be friends and talk to each other. And when I go into Facebook, I could see their entire conversations that they're texting with their friends, pictures they're sharing, what they're looking at. And I really like that. But that's the beginner grooming part of it for parents, that you feel comfortable letting your kids do that. And then all of a sudden it's like Roblox enters the room. And with Roblox, there's two choices. You could either be friends with no one. So you go on there and play the game and you're not allowed to talk to your friends. So that means your best friends that are sitting in the room with you, you can't play with them. And for those of you that don't know about this game, it's like, when my kids are here, my two girls and Laura has a daughter and a son, if they're all in the same room and they're playing Roblox, their characters could see one another in the game. So that's why you want them to be able to talk to their friends, because they play with each other in this other universe kind of. And you could see that would be fun for children. The only problem is that you either have no friends and your kids can't do that, or you have friends to every single person that is on the internet on Roblox. There's no way for us as parents to go and say, our kids are only allowed to be friends with these people and they're only allowed to talk to these people that we add. Now, obviously that's a huge problem, because you tell a 10-year-old, like, you better not be talking to strangers on there. And then they say, okay, mom. And unless you sit there and watch them the entire time that they're playing, there's the possibility of that, which is why this lawsuit is going forward, because I sit there and look at how much money this game makes, probably more than anything else in the universe right now, to be honest with you. And you're just like, they have the ability to make this technology and they're not allowing it. And that to me is gross, because I think that they're almost condoning children getting sexual, being predators, right?
Before we even started Mother Knows Death, we had reported on this kidnapping that happened via Roblox. Then, if you remember last year, we had reported on a woman who was talking to a child through Roblox, who's trying to get the child to kill a baby. So we've had all these disturbing stories. Now with this new lawsuit, this filing is saying that this 10-year-old girl was groomed on Roblox, then lured into sending explicit images, and cites dozens of similar cases. So basically what they're doing is these predators are going on there talking to children and trying them to go off of Roblox and into Snapchat and other apps that kids are really drawn to, and send explicit pictures in exchange for sending them Roblox money, which is the ultimate thing they want, so they could, build nicer houses, have nicer avatars. It's very worrisome that it's this easy to do.
I think as far like obviously I'm navigating this the same way every other parent is, and it's very difficult to be a parent in this world, especially because I've already been a parent to a child that's an adult now, that I didn't have to deal with any of this, so this is all new to me. um One of the ways to avoid this particular situation that Maria is talking about is a simple setting that you could put on your phone that makes sure that every single time the kid wants to download an app, you have to allow it. And I'm sorry, but there's never a situation where a 10-year-old needs Discord or needs Snapchat.
No,
So,
absolutely not.
because if they have that ability to lure them, this is what happened. Like, so on Roblox, a guy can't send a picture of his penis to your kid. It's not possible. They do have that technology that you're not allowed to send pictures through Roblox. But on Snapchat, they can, and on Discord, they can. So as long as they get your kid off that platform onto another one, and really, like, that's like the hard no social media rule, because there shouldn't really be. Am I right with thinking that, like, if they can't go on any form of social media, there should be no way for them to lure them out, except on a personal phone number, which you're not. My, the kids have shown me, like, if you try to send a phone number to somebody else, it doesn't work on Roblox. Like, I ask them to show me sometimes. I'll be like, "Oh, you see June over there, right? Go talk to her and just like try to send her your phone number and see what happens." And it blocks it. So, like, if you're not able to give a phone number or an email address to a predator on Roblox, then there should be no way that they could have access to your kid like that.
Well, I think, a large part of this is the game and the company that created the game clearly is enabling bad behavior because it's just more than the communication. I mean, there's little things saying they have virtual strip clubs going on. They allow nicknames that are references to pedophilia. They allow pictures of Diddy, of Jeffrey Epstein, all of that. Like, their technology can certainly block that stuff. They're just choosing not to let it work that way. But another large part of this is you have parents that just stick the kid on their iPad and don't ever check the activity they're doing. I don't think children ever have a need to have social media, especially, Lillian's been asking for Snapchat so much recently. It's not necessary for a 12-year-old girl to have
Yeah, and
Snapchat.
and then it's like, oh, she wants
The
the
filters.
filters. And then I say, well, then download an app that you could do filters.
And really,
And
we should.
Maria's saying, to her defense, there's no good apps that do filters. So then, like, I say, okay, well then, like, which I think the filters are like a bad thing for kids too, honestly. You have some of these filters that are making young girls, especially, because we know that the problems with social media are so much stronger in young girls. Like, it's making their skin look smoother, it's making their hair look better, like all this stuff. I don't think that that's good for people in general, to give them this false sense of like how good they could look.
It's
It's
not.
weird. So, like, I'm like, obviously I'm not going to allow that ever. But and like, it's hard because you have kids that have friends that have phones that they have them, and like, it's very hard for to be a parent right now and keep that out of their life. But I guess, and Maria's right with Roblox. So I'm like, obviously I'm an old person. I'm just trying to figure out how Roblox works. But to me, it seems like people can go on there and create their own games, and the kids in Roblox could play in those games. And I'm telling you, when Violet was here a couple weeks ago, she was showing me one that I was kind of like, it wasn't sexual, but it was dark. It was dark, like scary dark, like murderous dark. Like, the kids were able to like walk into all of these weird rooms, and they were like frightened and terrified. Like, it was weird. And I'm kind of like, this isn't something that like little children would like.
Yeah, but they don't care. And I think as a parent, you obviously can't monitor your child's activity 24/7, but you should be checking in once in a while instead of just sticking an iPad in front of your kid and allowing them to have social media and everything. There's very minimal steps you can take
You know what's interesting actually? Lucio is playing so one of the games that's really popular with the girls right now is called Dress to Impress. It's a game like Roblox is like a thing that has multiple games in it. So this one's called Dress to Impress. And I thought it was cool because you get to take your character and like walk around this room and you get to pick like what dress they're wearing and shoes and change their hair color and all, and then there's like a runway show and you get to like show your outfit, and then the kids get to vote on which one you like the best, and there's a winner and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So she did something with her avatar and was like in that game, and she said, "What do you think about this outfit?" And she showed it to me, and I was like, "Oh my god." It was like it looked like to me like Sabrina Carpenter sexy with like a garter like laying on a couch
Yeah, like they
with
shouldn't
like her
even
leg
allow
up.
garters.
And I was kind of like, I don't like that, dude. And she was like, why? Like, it looks like Sabrina Carpenter. And I'm like, yeah, like, no, that position is weird for, like, you don't need to lay like that as a character right now. You're like a little kid. Because
Yeah,
that
but they don't.
character is supposed to be like you dressing up. And I just was like, this is weird. And I mean, like, luckily they show me stuff when they think things are unusual, but I'm sure they come across stuff that they don't show me because they're scared that I'll be like, get the f off of your iPad right now, whatever.
I'm
But
sure Lillian would miss. It's inappropriate.
yeah,
She.
it, and I'm glad they have they're watching each other. It's just for me as a parent, like the amount of time they want to play on this game with their friends, I just couldn't really sit there with them the whole time and watch them.
No, and I'm not saying you
It's
should do that, but I'm saying like we know people that have given a 10-year-old their own cell phone with their own TikTok accounts and their own Snapchat accounts, and the kids are totally unmonitored.
yeah,
And
and
that is not advised.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, Epstein, or I'm saying Epstein because I see that in my notes here. Let me tell you some of the usernames. So and which I think this is why I always think that they're actually against you in a way, because Lucia, like her new word of the day is shart. She thinks it's like the funniest word, right? Even though it's not really new. And I tried to, so she got in a fight because Lillian tried to make some username that had the word shart in it. And Lubert was like, no, that's my name. And I was like, oh, you own the word shart. I was just like messing with her, right? So I tried to create a username that was at I own the word shart, and it wouldn't let me. It was said it was inappropriate, right? Now listen to some of these usernames that people are using with different spelling. I groom underscore minors. This other one is rape. Wait,
It's
raping.
rape, but spelled with a V in the middle.
Yeah, rape with a V spelled in the middle. Rape tiny kids. Like that's usernames on Roblox right now. And
another one was at Earl Brian Bradley, which is a reference to a specific pedophile who raped and molested hundreds of children.
Yeah, like that. And that to me is just kind of like, okay, so it does pick up. It recognized that the word shart was completely inappropriate. Like, God forbid a kid hears about a shit fart, but you're letting this on there, so.
No, I mean they clearly
There's ways
have the
around it.
They have the resources to make the technology to make it better, and they're choosing not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, China has developed the world's first pregnancy robot that's able to carry a baby to term and deliver it.
All right, so my opinion with this is that this is going to happen very soon because clearly they're able to do it and they're going to push it out soon, and it's going to take you're going to have all these negative things associated with it, and then it's going to take years for them to come up with some kind of legislation to regulate it. I mean, this could just, God knows how bad this can get. I just think it's terrible, honestly. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been met with a lot of ethical concerns, of course.
Well,
And then you have to worry about if it's going to produce a healthy baby, if a baby's going to have any issues. They were not specific about exactly how the baby gets to be inside of the robot. I mean, we assume it's going to be a similar process to IVF, but like, do they start the baby in? I know they were developing artificial wounds and stuff, so
I could see them being able to mechanically grow a child inside of a uterus. I'm concerned about like the whole immunity aspect. I don't even know how they would possibly mimic that. But I'm also concerned that there's never ever been a history of a human being born outside of some mother, even if it's the shittiest mother ever. There's a human being that when that child's brain is developing is bonding to another human individual. Now you're going to take that out of the equation, and this child that's born isn't going to start bonding until their brain is formed to 40 plus weeks gestation. That's their first interaction with a human.
Well, have
And
they
the bond.
have they done a human trial yet, or they're just
Well,
saying they know it has
you
the
can't-
potential to do this?
They've done it with an animal. I think they did like a sheep or a lamb or something, putting it in some kind of a bag or artificial wound or something like that. But they're like, the thing is that once you try to do a human trial, then like you've done it, and that person's life matters, and
Well, of
you're
course it does.
you're bringing a child into the world that didn't even have say over that, and then
Well, no child has say to being brought in the world. So if you want to really get into that argument, my problem with this is they're saying it's a tool to help tackle infertility because they've seen reports that suggest that infertility in China rose from 11.9% in 2007 to 18% in 2020. I think today we can all agree that infertility rates are through the roof. And my problem with this is they're spending all this time and resources and money developing this robot to artificially grow babies outside of a human body. But why are we not looking into the reason the infertility
why?
is so
Yeah,
high?
exactly.
I'm sure it's due to environmental changes, what we're eating in our foods. Why are we not looking at the source instead of trying to fix the problems?
They're just trying to bypass the problem.
I was thinking about this with the Amish story as well, like with citing that all these things we have, like allergy medicine, inhalers, all these things just manage the problem, but they're not curing the problem. So why don't we figure out what's causing the mass infertility problem we're having as a in the world right now? And instead of trying to make like a robot that could potentially cause all these other problems, why don't we try to take those same resources and fix it?
I just can't imagine this. Like, I like the idea of this to an extent because there are so many moms that like have a miscarriage at 20 weeks and the baby just can't live. It's too. It would be nice if there was a way to artificially kind of incubate it until. I mean, they do have it for a little bit further along, but even earlier on. But I just think it's messing with things a little bit too much at that point. And like we could use every example of this back to Jurassic Park and like really like scientists have a lot of responsibility, and you could even consider a scientist to be like a computer scientist, right? You have responsibility to be like, you don't have to do every single thing that you think is possible, because more is not always better. You don't have to do it. Just because you can do this doesn't mean you have to do it.
I think this is a horrible idea. I don't see how this is going to be a positive thing in the world.
And like I just think it's because they're going to do it eventually, and I don't think it's fair for that kid that's being born into that situation that doesn't like having an emotional bond to a person, and how that brain, and I don't know about the brain development and all that stuff and how important that is, but I'm sure it's very important. Very. And to think about having a child born into like a clinic like that, like what if they have problems growing older and growing attachments to people and they never bond, and that's people like end up being like Brian Koberger and stuff that just like don't have any feelings. And
But
don't
he was born in a person, so you can't use
yeah,
that
I
example.
understand.
But
I understand that, but like we don't need to bring more people in the world that are like disconnected from that. I don't know what that. There has to be all of these studies of the impact of the maternal bond with a child, even if that mom ends up giving up the baby. Like there has to be some part of that.
I just feel like I know a while ago we had reported on they were doing like, manipulating embryos that have blue eyes, right? If you wanted a baby
Yeah.
with blue eyes. Like I'm 100% against that. Like you're just messing with too much stuff.
Yeah. That's how I
Just
feel too.
why don't we just try to solve infertility instead of trying to make this robot that's going to cause a bunch of problems and maybe a bunch of serial killer people? So, like, I don't know. All right, guys, we are going to be at CrimeCon in 2 weeks. We are so excited. Please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have a story for us, please submit it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
See you guys. Have a good weekend. And don't forget to tune in to our YouTube Live on Saturday at 12 noon. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.